What's up guys? Kyle here again, and today I finally invested in something that you guys have told me that I needed to for a long time. And before you get your hopes up, no, it's not guitar lessons. It's more gear, rack gear. Today, we are gonna check out the Mesa Rectifier recording, Preamp Rectifier recording, and the 100 power amp. Hey, I got that one right. Let's do it. All right guys, hope you're doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle, and what I do is I take all sorts of awesome high gain related guitar equipment such as this, record it with a simple SM57 setup, and I give you the unprocessed audio on your end. So if you're into East Hand or thrash riffs, dropsy hardcore riffs, and dudes that already know that they're gonna regret having this sitting on their lap for 30 minutes, you're in the right place. Consider hitting the like button and subscribing on the way out so you don't miss any more of my stuff. Thanks. All right guys, so as I mentioned in the beginning of this video, I finally got some rack gear. One of the most common messages that I get ever since I started the channel is, Kyle, are you ever gonna get into rack gear? Are you gonna check out rack gear? Kyle, rack gear, Kyle. And for the longest time, my answer was no, I don't really wanna get into that rabbit hole. I don't really know all that much about rack gear, to be completely honest. It really kind of seems like it's one of those things that got left in the past. Now, of course, a lot of touring musicians are using stuff like the Fractal rack mount, Fractal FM3. Nope, that's not it. It's something. The Fractal, oh my God. The Fractal Axe FX 3 rack mount, the Line 6 Helix rack mount. People are even rack mounting their Kempers and definitely their Quad Cortexes. So, I mean, in a sense, you know, racks haven't gone away for true touring musicians, but I'm a belligerent amateur, bro. Like, I'm rolling up to the local venue anytime I play a show in my Nissan Altima, and my bands are playing on a stage that's basically the size of a pallet. I don't do a lot of touring, and there are not a lot of instances where rack gear, even if it's something like the Axe FX 3, good Lord, makes a whole lot of sense for me. So for the longest time, I just didn't really want to get into it. But somebody who follows the channel messaged me not that long ago. They asked me if I was interested in buying this off of them, and they offered me a really good price, and I'm like, you know what? It's about time that we finally jumped into the rack gear world. With that being said, I've already sold this to another viewer, but we're gonna check it out before it goes on its merry way. There is a reason that I sold this. I won't necessarily be diving headfirst into the rack gear world. I did intend to keep this when I bought it, but there's another video coming up and you will see why it is that I sold this. It was for a good reason, but fear not, I actually have some other rack gear hiding away as well that we'll check out. But as far as this, I'm gonna stop saying rack gear because that's, you know, you guys could make a drinking game out of it and already be drunk at this point in the video. But we've got the Mesa recording rectifier preamp, I keep saying that backwards, and the 100 stereo power amp. So these were actually designed to go together. Mesa has made a number of different rack power amplifiers in the past, but in the 90s, they made the 2-channel rack recording preamp, but in the 90s they made the 2-channel rectifier recording preamp based on the popularity of the rectifier, and they made this 100 power amp to go with it. It is 100 watts per side, is a stereo power amp, and there's a reason that this goes with the rectifier, and that's because the rectifier recording preamp has an additional jack on the back where you plug in a patch cable and plug it into a special jack on the power amp, and it activates the modern setting on the power amp. And this is the only preamp that is going to activate the modern setting on the power amp, and it's essentially giving you the same kind of negative feedback circuit that you would get on the modern channel of an actual dual rectifier head unit. So these were designed to go together with each other. Mesa actually had a studio preamp with a 290 power amp that has a couple of different options there. That was basically like your Mark IV type, you know, preamp power amp combo, whereas this is your rectifier. So they were really doing all sorts of cool stuff with rack gear in the 90s, and in the 80s they had even more stuff like the tri-axis. But we're not gonna get into the history of everything that Mesa has ever done with rack gear. I can tell you that I've played this pretty extensively when it came in. It's really cool. From what I've read, people have said that this is a little bit tighter, a little bit more aggressive than a standard like dual rectifier in a head format, and I can honestly say that seems to be my experience with it. And in all honesty, now that I'm talking about it and we're gonna play it in a second, I'm sure that I'm gonna be bummed that I sold this. Before I send this thing off, I really wanna plug into it one last time and share it with you guys, because the whole reason that I bought it in the first place was to share it with you guys. I wanted this to be kind of the start of my rack gear collection, but in all honesty, right now, I'm just not looking to expand my collection anymore. And I know if I have one piece of rack gear that's going to stick around, that's just going to give me the excuse in my mind that, hey, it's okay for me to start picking up preamps and all sorts of other stuff, and I just don't wanna do that. Don't wanna do that right now. I'd rather get some stuff out of my house, because my house is quite literally overflowing with gear at the moment. So I figured it would make sense to let go of this, and then therefore I would not be able to justify buying rack gear for the next few months, at least until some of this other stuff gets out of here. And if you guys want to help me on that quest of liquidating some of my gear and saving my sanity, make sure to follow my Belligerent Gear Sales Instagram page. I post lists over there pretty regularly of all the stuff that I am getting rid of. So if you guys are ever wondering what happens to the gear after I get done using it on the channel, if I don't keep it, I end up selling it so I can get other stuff here on the channel. So if you want to be part of that, own a piece of the Belligerent Amateur Musician history or something, make sure to follow that Instagram account. So yeah, without further ado, let's throw this thing on the cab. Let's hear a couple tones out of it. I want to show you guys, this is a really, really cool setup, and I'm kind of excited to play through it one more last time and break my own heart. It's gonna be fun. Here we go. There's no way I can hold this out in front of me. Oh! Ow. All right, guys, so I currently have the Mesa recording rectifier. God, I'm never gonna get it right. The Mesa rectifier recording preamp and the 2100 power amp hooked into none other than my 1999 Mesa traditional cab with the stock vintage 30s, SM57 on that V30, no post-processing. I've got my Balaguer Typhon here, and we are on the modern setting. We are boosting it with the Licklaren King in yellow, and this is basically the first tone that I came up with. So as you can see, the modern mode on this thing is very, very modern. And you know how the modern mode is actually engaged on the power amp is this little red LED, because if we switch over to vintage mode, that light goes off. So not only does it change channels, but it makes a significant difference in the power amp voicing, and our presence no longer works down here with the modern mode engaged, just like on the red channel of the rectifier. So if we remove that special jack, as you can see, I removed the jack even though we're still on the modern mode. The modern mode on the power amp is no longer active. So we've got a drop in volume, but we also have the control of our presence back. So it is definitely much less bright, but there's also a lot less bass going on due to that negative feedback adjustment. So let's turn the bass up on the preamp itself. So one thing I will say that makes this considerably harder to dial in than a regular rectifier is the recording preamp. The presence is active whether you're on modern mode or not. So if you have the modern mode engaged on the rectifier power amp and it takes this presence out of the circuit, you still have to deal with this presence and with this treble. And I am noticing that this presence actually has a pretty noticeable effect on the voicing of the high end. And if you kind of leave it dialed down, it actually, to me, it gives it more of that whole, kind of that like nasally top end and upper mids and stuff. So It is tighter, it is more aggressive for sure, but it's also a little bit more complicated to dial in. We've also got switches over here for live, which is brighter, and warm, which is recording. Man, this thing has a considerable like mid bark to it. It's actually crazy how midi this thing is. I do have the treble at 0 though, so that's gonna add to our overall mids. Let's dial that treble. So yeah, that is with the modern mode disengaged. We have the jack pulled out again, like I mentioned. Here it is with it back in. I've got to adjust the volume real quick. So that shows you how much mid that scoops out. We've really got to pull that presence back, because if we leave it in the same spot, it is just like unusable. But if you suffer with this one being too mid-aggressive for your liking, you're definitely going to want to use the modern mode on the power amp. Let's dial that treble back down to 0 to get those mids back. And let's dial the mids up a little bit. So yeah, just with the multiple presences, it's just kind of really hard to balance that top end out to make the amp sound, basically pull the blanket off the speakers without it sounding harsh at the same time. I honestly don't hate that. Let's bump those mids up a little more. Yeah, again, it's just kind of blanket over the speakers type effect. Let's see if we can get a good tone out of the vintage channel, because that's usually where I live on the 2-channel rectifiers. All right, so the vintage mode, I like the overall tone a little better, but not at the same time, because it's a little bit more woolly. It's kind of a little bit more of that nasally, like vocal mid-range is wah, 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 versus like the real biting top end of the modern channel. Yeah, it's goofy. It's like a little bit different in good ways and a little bit different in ways that I don't like as much. It's very much a rectifier sound, but it's like, it's playing with the tone stack and the reaction just a little bit. It's tighter, it's punchier, but there's still like a low mid that I also can't get rid of either, especially on this vintage channel. I don't hate it, but I don't love it either. All right, so for that portion, I figured out something that really helps. I put a 7-band EQ in front of my overdrive, and I pulled out some of the low mids, and I boosted the level a little bit just to give it a little bit more kick, and that's kind of like smoothing out some of that honky low mid range that's going on. I feel like if I spend some more time with this, I could really get it fine-tuned, maybe with like a parametric EQ in the loop too, and just get some some serious nasty tones out of this thing. I want to punch myself for saying what I just said. Let's go ahead and let's check out a lower tune guitar and see how it handles that. All right, guys, Gibson Les Paul Studio Faded. I've got my Balaguer Bowbucker pickups in this guitar, and we are tuned to drop C. All right, so on the vintage channel, as you guys can hear, it's really woolly sounding. I'm not a huge fan. Let's dial the presence up a little bit. And I just dialed the presence down on the actual preamp, and it just made it even worse. So I think what I'm really not liking on this channel is having the presence dialed down. So let's dial it down on the power amp, let's dial it up on the preamp. Yeah, for down tuning, I don't think the vintage mode is where it's at. Let's go into the modern mode. Let's pull that volume down before we blow our eardrums out. Honestly, that sounds like a Crate solid state amp the way that we have it dialed right now. You really need to push the mids on this channel and pull the treble back if you want any sort of mid punch at all. Yeah, just the balancing act between all the controls on this thing is really giving me a hard time getting this thing where I would typically like the Rectifier. I can usually get all these sounds or all these modes on my regular dual Rectifier Rev G to sound awesome. And right now it's kind of, it's a little poopy doody. It's sounding like a muddy diaper. I don't know. It sounds like something not that great for the lower tuning. I'm not personally a fan. Let's try a 7-string and then we'll get out of here, but hopefully we can get some cool tones out of the 7-string. And hopefully I can learn English words and talking good at some point. All right, guys, same exact settings. I have my Schecter PT Hellraiser with the EMG 57 in the bridge. Man, it is definitely sensitive to pickups because now we have a ton of presence and hardly any mids. I think I like that better than either of the last two guitars that we played, actually. This seems to at least have the top end presence balanced out a little bit. Still a little wanting in the mids. Let's bump the mids up, bump the bass up just a tad. Alright guys, that's gonna do it for my little exploration of the Mesa Rectifier recording preamp. I think I finally got it right that time. And the Mesa 2100 Rectifier stereo power amp. If you guys have experience with these, let me know down below in the comments if there are ways to set this up that I am not doing to do better justice to this combination. Let me know. Like I said, I haven't spent a whole lot of time with it. I remember liking it more the last time I played it. I'm struggling with it a bit today, but I also was not playing it on the Mesa cab. I was playing it on an Angle cab, which may experience why it sounded a little less blanket over the speakers like. Yeah, regardless, I'm selling this for a good cause, and you guys will see that video coming up soon. I'll make sure to mention it in the actual video. But yeah, let me know what you thought about the tones that I was able to get out of this today. And again, if you have any additional experience with this setup or any of the other Mesa rack gear that you might want me to check out, leave that down below in the comments. I would greatly appreciate it. If you want to support the channel, make sure to hit those affiliate links down below if you're shopping for any new gear. Zounds, who actually provided this 7-string for me about a year ago to do 7-string tones on the demos. You guys requested it, they made that happen. So clicking on those affiliate links if you're gonna buy any new gear massively helps support this channel because it makes stuff like this possible, and I can fulfill your guys' requests and make the content that you want to see here at Belligerent Amateur Central. If you liked the video, hit that like button, subscribe if you're for some reason not subscribed already, you stupid idiots that aren't subscribed. The hell's wrong with you? And I'm gonna get out of here before I say anything worse and lose any more subscribers. So, thanks so much for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time.